Lesson 10, increasing outreach. The home Bible study groups, on this already will discuss, and can refer to Matthew 28, 19 to 20. I'm not going to read it. The home Bible study groups meet in homes under the guidance of a trained leader. These groups contribute to evangelism by winning people to faith in Christ, helping existing churches grow, planting new churches, establishing new Sunday schools and other outreach points. Now, in the previous lessons, we actually looked at the crusades and the bigger things that's going on. These are smaller groups of the church that goes out in particular areas. Okay, so that is more a home Bible study, and that is the same way that the church started in the biblical times. It was Bible home study groups, and that is just as valued today as those days. It's not necessary for a building to have groups. You can have a group, you can train the leader, you can step forward and go on. The church project, the home study group program, should be a ministry of the church. That must be one of the big stuff, big projects, this home study groups. Because if you can say, invite a few people there and let them feel sort of part of the group, then automatically at the end you will join the church. The church should direct and control even every aspect of this program. Now, what is nice, you get this Knowing God, a book that you can get that's in leadership. We did it with the other church, and that is actually very nice. You've got the manual, the leaders manual, you've got the smaller books for the other people. And in the group, you're starting Knowing God, and it is actually a very good thing to step off with. And everybody, all the leaders in the church had the book and those groups. So something nice to start with. And you discuss that, and if there's questions, you go to the pastor and you say, listen, we couldn't answer this question, what's the story, and you come back to your group. It's very nice. Reaching people for Christ is a spiritual endeavor, therefore the church should seriously pray for God's guidance as it contemplates establishing home Bible study groups for outreach. The Evangelism Council and pastor can develop a planning group for these groups. Location, needs, numbers of groups, leaders, study material, and finances. And what is nice, you don't need a lot of finance to start the smaller groups. As when you got it in a church and you must make a big crusade or arrange it, then there's more finances. But with these smaller groups, there's smaller things that can happen. Pardon me, because I know there was, I think, 1 or 2 people that couldn't afford the books. Then you make copies and you say, okay, but they may not remember there's copyright on the book, so you can't make a whole book and say this, but there's certain things they must go and do at home. You make a copy and that they can do whatever they must do. Okay. The Evangelism Council, that we said, training the leaders. The Pastor and Evangelism Council guide the church is choosing the study leaders. Okay, just going back, Evangelism Council and Pastor, that Evangelism Council and the pastor, that is the one that's controlling it. We must be very careful. We get it a lot of times in some churches, not all, but there are churches, that there's a person that gives a lot of money to the church and he wants to control, or she wants to control all the groups and council. They must be careful for that, because that person is not always the person that has the knowledge to start and organizing and things. So the Evangelism Council and the pastor is one that work together, not somebody else that comes and interferes, okay, because he's giving money to the church or whatever the case may be. So be careful for that. The pastor and the evangelist can guide the church in choosing the study leaders, that they know what to do and they will choose the leaders. Continuous training is essential, as you know, and that we said a few times. You can't just come to, okay, now I'm here and I know this part, but you must go further. And just as we studying further to know more, that person must also know more and more about Christ and salvation. Now we've got short-term training. That is actually a type of training that I can discuss in the book. The first 2 sessions inform leaders about the procedures and the methods to be used in study sessions in homes. So the leaders get trained what to do, how to do it. It's not just, you are a leader and do whatever you must do. And here you jumping in the air, what must I do? They get trained. Like a physical arrangement, exactly what must you do, how do you do it, etc. If possible, chairs should be arranged in circles so that participants can face each other. That is, if you've got a place to do it that way. Now, normally in a house, in your lounge, your lounge is actually like that, and you can discuss with each other. So that idea is actually coming forth in a house group. The discussion method should be used to involve the participants in study. The circle creates togetherness and encourage group participation. That studies, you will later on in this chapter, that studies, you will train to study a certain thing, words, like we did already. What is the words? What can you find out about that word? Go and Google, go and research, find out, so you can explain to the other people that's in that group exactly what is going on. Teach the people in the group. This isn't everybody that wants to be a higher education. Some of them just want to know how to read the Bible. Okay? Things like that. A circle creates togetherness and encourages group participation. The study leader should not act as the authority on the Bible, but simply as a participant who guides the discussion. Because it's not to say there can be somebody else that actually knows a little bit more, but he doesn't want to be a group leader, but he or she wants to be part of the group. So be careful, and if you have got the authority, sometimes you say something wrong. So be careful, okay? To rather be part of the situation as that you're trying to stand out. It's exactly the same as I explained previously about the pastor. Be careful that you're not on the pedestal and your congregation is you see your congregation at your feet. It doesn't work like that. The only one that everybody's bending to is Christ. He's the only one that's got the status to be there. The Bible must be used to guide the discussion, therefore lead the participants to use the Bible. Prepare questions to ask the group. Introduce background information of the passage if it is needed, like in Ephesians. You must understand what the situation was in Ephesians to understand why women couldn't talk in the church, why they said keep quiet. You must understand what was the situation with, and as we quickly just see that it's a goddess and there's a whole story behind why that was said. Because it would have been in contradiction with God used the female apostles and everything, so there's a situation. So you must look at all of that. You can't just jump the line or whatever. You must do that. Deal with the questions and problems in the biblical passages. Group members should be permitted to study topics most meaningful to them. Because one person can find that this is a very important thing for him or her. That one will say, no, that's old news. We do another one. So be careful. Study the stuff that is a question in the group, not only one person's meaning or just one request from your side or whatever the case might be. That is actually quite interesting to see what's coming out in the thoughts of some people. So that topics you can look at. The study relates to every area of life. Seek biblical answer to the various aspects of life. You can actually almost you can get every single answer in the Bible. Be careful. Don't turn the words in the Bible to fit today's life. That's also happening. The last 4 training sessions should be practice or library session. The pastor should lead the first of these to demonstrate how to study groups meeting might be conducted. So if you lead something, you want to train the leaders, explain and show them what to do, a practical thing. There must be witness. You will see a lot of this stuff is actually the same as the previous chapters, just in another way you do it. It's just in groups now. No person should lead a study group who cannot witness to individuals about Christ, but people who have had no experience can be selected, but they have to enroll and participate in the partners witness training classes. So there's a difference. If you've got no experience, don't get a group, but train that person first and then you send him out. The method of training, this is described in lesson 4. A continual process. Christians workers need continuous training in Ephesians 4:11 to 12. That is also said. So continuously, we said how many times already. The continuous training is things like in biblical knowledge, theology. That is what we study, how to look at the Bible and what is what in the Bible. Evangelism, comparative religion. Study leaders need intensive training in biblical knowledge, theology, evangelism, church history, comparative religion, etc. That is what this course is actually giving quite a lot of in these 2 years. So it's really worth it. A book that you can use is a ministerial training by Gayle studies series, it's a study series that you can use. The pastor should meet with the Bible study leaders before the week group meetings, that we said also. You should try to solve problems that exist, offer assistance to each group leader, encourage group leaders, attempt to instill enthusiasm, faith and expectancy in them. Okay. Establishing groups. How do you establish home Bible study groups? Pray for God's power. That's always important. Always. Locate suitable meetings, places for the Bible study groups. Where do you meet? What are you going to do? Set the date and time for the first meeting. Obtain the necessary study material. Visit all the homes in the area and inform them of the Bible study group being formed. Enlist as many church members as possible for the visitation. Make follow-up visits to the people who attend the session. Make periodic reports to the church. All of this is already discussed in previous chapters. So it's actually just a continuation of that. So I'm not going to give time onto that running through. The School of Evangelism. According to A. Clark Scanlon, there are 5 objects for a School of Evangelism. To deepen the spiritual life, that is what's happening. Ensure a clear understanding of the believer's own new life in Christ, and lead him to commit himself to the Spirit's control in his or her life. To learn to share his testimony of what Christ has done in his or her life in clear, conscious terms. What did Christ do? You were witnessing a change of it. To develop skills in presenting a booklet written in non-technical terms that uses scriptures to lead a person to become a child of God. There is quite a lot of biblical verses that you can just use and actually start discussing that. And you will lead. It's not necessary to say anything more than just showing the verses and discuss the verses. It's very nice. To learn by practice how to lead a person to trust God, to grow in skills of helping a new believer grow in the Christian life. A book for training again, they call it Winners Program, Preparation, Training and Continuation by the Home Missionary Board of the Southern Baptist Convention. That is where you can get the book. Media evangelism. As we know, these days we actually know more TV than anything else, but there's still people that listen to radio things. I'm not so sure. In the book they say it's no fees, it's free, but again this book is not written in South Africa, so I cannot say that that is true, that it's free in South Africa. Maybe it's a small amount. I know there's discount on putting an ad in a paper, because that I did before, and for a church or a Christian group that is cheap, but they give quite a big discount on that. So that I know for a fact. Radio, media evangelism is radio, TV, reading matters like newspapers. Also have possible free opportunities, as I said, it depends what it is. Possible free programs, devotional programs, talk programs, community service programs that we also get on sometimes on our TV as well as on our radio. The vital element is using mass media evangelism is follow up. To follow up every that is so many times already repeated. Follow up, follow. Make sure you follow up. It's so strange, even with if you work. In other words, you must follow up whatever you're busy with to make sure it's working. So follow up. Correspondence courses, the use of Bible correspondence courses that we can also use. Present God's plan of salvation, locate evangelism prospects, teach the Bible, promote Christian growth in believers, make known the presence and witness of the local church, develop Bible study groups, assist in planning new churches, Petro, where the gospel message is unknown or unfamiliar, that will go more on missionary work. Of course, here in South Africa, all of them are, they know about Christ and things like that. You will most probably get the people that are not so sure, but it's not totally unknown like in other places where you go out in missionary work. A familiar Bible correspondence course, the Bible Way Correspondence School by the Baptist Union of South Africa, and yes, I wanted to bring some books with to show you, and I forgot. That I've got already, and that is actually very nice if you can get people, especially when I found your school, Sunday school teachers of the primary school, that stuff, so that they know just at least the basic principles of Christ and belief. That is actually a very nice books to do, really. Through the course, churches can be planned, highly recommended for new converts and junior school, Sunday school teachers, as I said. Places to advertise, places of employment, school and universities, institutions, worship centers, crusade firms, markets, bookstores, newspaper ads, radio announcements, television announcements, house-to-house visitation, crusades, firms, markets, bookstore signs, billboards, calendars, direct mail. There's a lot of ideas. And even with our Bible study that we're doing here, where we're doing the certificate work, we can actually also do the same thing to advertise. Literature, evangelism. One of the most effective ways to extend the kingdom of God is the use of Christian literature. There's texts, there's books, there's the whole Bible you can get on audio. I've got it. And there's a lot of people you won't believe, but there's still a lot of people that can't read. But if you give them the audio set, they can listen. Okay? So that is quite important. The utilization of Christian literature is important in evangelism because more and more people are becoming literate. Okay? Earlier years there was a lot of people, even in every culture actually, that didn't get all schooling or just the basic of schooling because they were farmers or whatever and they didn't get proper training. You do get that. Dr. Hill gives 5 basic principles of literature evangelism. It allows the reader the privilege of receiving the gospel in his own language, in thought forms with which he is familiar and in terms that appeal to him as the deepest levels of response. Now, as we know, it's not always, the Bible is very difficult to translate into all languages to give the right message over. Okay, but with the training or with the messages, still the right message is coming through, even if you struggle to translate it. Okay, that's how the more educated people will step in with the Hebrew and the Greek and things like that. But with the literature we've got such a lot of, if you're in a pastorate or wherever you want to give a more leadership, you have the commentaries, Brown's commentaries for the New Testament is very good, things like that to explain to you what is going on there. Okay, again because you are literate to read. And that is what is very important. It witnesses without embarrassing the leader. It offers a gospel message consistently and accurately. It can enhance the appeal of the gospel. It commands respect and symbolize truth. I just want to mention something that you must also be very careful what literature you take. You get some of these pamphlets and stuff that if you start reading, you can actually see it's way off. So be careful for that. Additional approaches to evangelism, literacy courses. The method is used to win people to Christ by teaching them to read. When they have advanced far enough in their reading ability, they are introduced to simple biblical reading materials such as the story of Christ. Music ministries. Music can be used to attract people to purpose such as concerts, street services and Christian music festivals. But as we know, there will be a sermon somewhere to give out the message. Coffee houses, unreachable people, radicals and the rebellious can come for free refreshments such as coffee, chocolate and juice. And Christian people talk casually with them about their Christian faith. If somebody comes constantly and you make friends with him, you can convert. And get the trust of the person. Yeah, get the trust. Retreats. This is to go to a different setting, such as a camp for a spiritual emphasis. This is normally a short period of time, such as a weekend or something like that. Especially if you've got people in your church to say you don't need to be a church member, but we can go for the camp, and that is where you go for the person. Recreation. This is a church that capitalizes on the interest to win people to Christ. Camps, a very fruitful method to win people to Christ is to involve them in a church camp. Films showing the film tracks made many people. Showing a movie attracted people, come and visit, come and have a movie for free, something like that. Evangelistic literature and evangelistic invitation may be given in conjunction with showing a firm. Arts and crafts exhibits can help introduce people to Christianity. Free Christian literature also should be used in conjunction with arts and crafts festivals that you can do different things with. I mean, there's a lot of things. If you see biblical gardens, the Salem biblical gardens, they actually got a very good art gallery. It's not actually a gallery, it's very good. As it's a real statues of things that they start from the creation, Moses, as very right through to the crucifixion and the Pentecost and everything is very, very good. Family ministries, efforts should be made by churches to minister to family needs and problems in their communities, villages and districts. That will also continue to say, look at the person's needs, emotional, whatever the case, and see where you can help, see if the Bible can assist the person in that, etc., etc. A different program should be planned and initiated. Opportunities will be abundant to share the Christian witness, what you can witness, what you went through, etc. Social action, attempts should be made to minister to human needs, such as in the areas of hunger, disaster, and injustice. These efforts will provide additional opportunities for Christians to witness. Christian specialists, churches can utilize Christian specialists who visit their areas, such as doctors, engineers, politicians, diplomats, musicians, and ministers in presenting the gospel message. Special places. Ministries can be initiated in special places such as places of employment, schools, nursing homes, hospitals, beaches, holidays locations, and other special places. A church work is outreach, not sitting by your own church, as I said quite a few times already. A church, reason for a church is to reach out to other people, not to stick that in their own thinking toward God. Personal witness should be a church's fundamental method of reaching people for Christ. A church that sincerely desires to reach people should prayerfully select methods it believes will be most appropriate and most productive.